So welcome to, I don't want to say like another episode of the, I don't know if they can see that, what you just did.
Oh.
Do it again. Wait, but you got to say something so the camera goes to you.
Oh, like changing your perspective changes everything with Ron Ben Joseph and Meghann Conter.
Dude, this is the most like special effect, like high cinematography I've seen in weeks. I mean, what you just
and all I had to do was change my perspective. It's amazing what that can do for you.
Wow, Meghann Conter, changing perspective. I mean, you know what? I'll just get to it. I'll just get to the chase. Here we go. I don't want to say it's another.
Because the whole like, working your way up to the climax is overrated. Let's just go there.
First of all, as a man who hasn't climaxed in years, like I really relate to that. I respect that. And the only difference today is
I do not have that problem.
Would you like to talk more about that?
No, it's not a problem. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know. Why would you say that to me? Why would you say that?
Compassionate of me.
Wow. So today I have my friend the paper cut. I talk about
with the vinegar.
Yeah. I don't like to boast too much about the other person when I do these shows.
Bull crap.
No, but you are the reason. Meghann Conter is here today. This is not another episode. This is like the penultimate episode. Meghann Conter, owner of the Dames and my personal coach and hero and mentor, who has flat out fucking changed my life for the better on every front. So yeah, not to put pressure, not to put you on a pedestal, but I do.
It's okay. I feel mutually about you, so it's okay.
Thanks, Meghann. Meghann, how do you say pedestal in French?
Pedestal? It's a good question. I mean, I don't know if I think it's probably platform or something like that, but I'm going to have to tell you because now I feel stupid. I know all these things in French, and you ask me the one thing. I'm like, pedestal? No, that's not true.
This is just our warm-up.
Bullshit you right there. I couldn't even do it. It is, piedestal. Okay, piedestal.
You were close.
Yeah.
Folks, there you have it. That is a sign of Meghann's intuitive greatness and power when you work with her. Like, this is it. This is what it looks like. So I feel like we're showing people what it looks like when we work on Dames content.
Right? Hey, Ron, I want you to know.
Oh, did you like the GIF I sent you yesterday? The Pee Wee Herman. I know you are. What am I?
It brought me back to my past. It did. It was like a moment of nostalgia, which the moments of nostalgia through all of this have been the most heartwarming and fun, I think.
How so?
Well, my mom has been sending me, during this time, she has used this opportunity to go through all of the old photo albums and put all the new old photos into newer photo albums because they were disintegrating. And so she would take pictures of certain pictures that she thought that I would like, and she would send them to me. So it would just be like, I was having kind of a moment. And then this picture of me and my best friend when we were like 12, when I had taken colored pencils and got the tips wet and then drew things all over her face. And I texted the picture to her and another friend, and our other friend was like, "Is that the Star of David on her forehead?" And I was like, No, it's just my own 12-year-old 5-pointed star art. That's all it is. But anyways, we just had a lot of fun.
That's
memories.
Adorable. That's adorable. So we're actually talking, I'm glad you brought up 12 years old. Like, you brought up that, like, when you were 12 years old, like, you were all about the connections. You were all about the friends, right? So, like, This notion of creating connections for you, like, was it innate? Was it just an innate part? I say innate, but was it an innate part of your upbringing, or?
I'm an only child, and I was raised by an extroverted mother and an introverted father. And my dad would travel a lot for work, so it was my mom and I a lot of the time. So I learned a lot about building connection and solidifying connection from my mom. And so she you know, she knew from a very young age that I was an extrovert and that I needed to be able to connect with others. So I was fortunate growing up whenever we would get the chance, we would go to Minnesota or we would go to Pennsylvania or we would go to Chicago and we would visit friends and family. And so I grew up seeing my cousins every year and building relationships with them. And similarly, in Colorado Springs, where I grew up, in my neighborhood, I had several friends. And we were joking the other day with my mom and I about the fact that it was like every other minute. Can I go see Rachel? Can I go play with Tara? Can I go to Haley's house? Can I go to Holly's? Can I have somebody over? Can I have a playmate? Please, playmate. Blah, blah, blah. So throughout all of this quarantine, it's kind of been like that. I'm like, okay, who can I play with? Who can I have a Zoom call with? Who do you want? And I organized a family Zoom call, and I organized like a 3-generation family Zoom call that we're doing this next week. But it's like this need for connection and this innate understanding and intuitive understanding of it has definitely been with me since I was a kid. I always loved connecting with others and making them feel good and making them laugh. And my friends still say, like, the best thing about you is that you are your zany self and you make us laugh all the time, no matter what. And that's just who I am. So
we talk about, you are a spicy pickle. Like, I love calling you when I'm upset. And especially, I have to tell you, I love calling you when I'm upset and when you're upset about something. Like, if we intersect on upset days, it's my favorite day. Because in Colorado, everyone's always like, fine, like they're fine, like it's fine. Like, I love calling you because you'll be like, fuck it, like you'll just be like screaming your head off. I love it.
You're such a Chicagoan at heart. It's not even funny. And my family is a bunch of Chicagans at heart. So I'm used to that spicy pickle, spicy meatball, you know, and my friends who are Italian can also attribute to the fact that our households were probably the loudest ones growing up. So, you know, we'd be at the dinner table with my grandparents and my uncle, and it's like, who could get a word in edgewise? This is the loudest freaking house in the world. So I figured out at a young age how to pierce right through there and get heard and get seen. And so, Meghann, yeah, maybe that's where the spicy meatball comes from. Spicy pickle, you say.
But that's huge. And I think that's like, honestly, like for me, this is almost like a realization, because I think that's the perfect sauce, like the perfect like combination here for being someone who is innately gravitates towards connection, but also having that muscle of being able to pierce through. Like, as you're talking about, like for me, like I remember having conversations with my sister when she was 16 and I was 10. And even my dad around that time, and my mom very popular. Like, my mom is super social. She's the hub of the Chicago Israeli community. Like, everyone knows her. I had a client who was a Jedi. She was in Star Wars. She was Israeli, and she was one of the Jedis in the Star Wars movies. And years later, after we were working together, I saw her at a Israeli book festival in Northbrook, Illinois. And she's like, "Oh, wait, your mom," and she was there. She's like, "Your mom is Zafi?" I was like, "Yeah, my mom is Zafi." She's like, "Oh my God, I love Zafi." So my mom was very popular, but all 3 of them at one point when I was a kid sat me down and they're like, "Look, you're not much of a student, but you know, you should be more social." And I remember they like sat me down. My sister was like, she took me out to breakfast once when I was 10, and she's like, "Dude, I have a car now. I will drive you. You need to be more social." And I never thought of myself as not social prior to that, but I guess I innately wasn't. So I learned everything that I do now is in sales for my business and stuff. Like, I learned from that lack mentality, that lack of abundance, or there's something fucking wrong with me mentality. Whereas like, it's cool. Like, I always admired about you that like, you're the life of the party. Like, you love being that. Whereas I feel ashamed of it if I go to a party and I start turning it on and making people laugh or whatever. Like, there's something innately and it like disconnected from me. And so I think, like, would you agree that a lot of the people that we work with are having a challenge right now where they found themselves all of a sudden in a position where they need to, I don't want to say like get out of themselves, but like what they were doing a month ago is disappeared. And now they need to build new connections because they essentially have to offer new solutions, right? So like, what do you feel like if we break it down, what do you think is the biggest hurdle for people when it comes to creating new connections? And the biggest fear that comes from like being like, I don't know the people I need to know. How do I know them? Because I think you excel at that.
So I think it's innate, just initially what I'm thinking of is that it's one of 2 things. It's either and we'll talk about both, that it's either that they have some kind of belief system or habits in place that are preventing them from creating and believing in connection, or that they are innately it's easy for them to connect, but they are strategically in need of a revamp or a redo, repositioning, looking at things in a different way. So with that first case, I see it a lot, and it can be, I people would say, oh, it's probably it's a lot of the introverts that, they just don't feel safe to connect or whatever. I don't think that's the case. I think that it's a lot of introverts, it's a lot of extroverts, but there's this belief system at place that's running the show, that is creating habits in their lives that say it's not safe to connect, or, oh, I've connected in the past, or I've collaborated in the past and it hasn't worked, so it's a giant waste of time. Or I think that the harder one to see from the outside or even from the inside is the one where you have past beliefs or past traumas or past issues running the show that are subconsciously affecting your behaviors. So that goes into a lot more depth of really needing to have even more self-awareness and building that self-awareness than anything else. But I think when we say, things like connection don't work for me, or I've tried to collaborate and it doesn't work, the step one is to look at yourself and say, what belief is running the show here? What truths or stories do I have that are telling me that? And really looking at those and finding out if those beliefs and habits are serving you any longer or not. And chances are they're not. So there's the one side. And the other side is those who already connect well. And maybe this is where I was, right? It was years ago, 14 or so. I'd been running other people's networking events. I was leading, leads groups. I was doing all these other things and constantly networking. I like to joke this is why I decided to quit drinking alcohol, because I was either at a wine meeting or a coffee meeting or both all the time, networking 7 days a week, but not efficient in any way. And I got to a point where I was totally overwhelmed, and I'm like, I know all these people, I have all these connections. Why isn't this resulting in more business? Why isn't this resulting in more success? So on and so forth. So I was really good at making initial connections, but building long-term relationships was where I was falling short. So people can be really good at connecting, but too much connecting and not enough strategy. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking too, like, so you run this amazing group, the Dames, right? Like, which like is so like I have to like for years since 2010, my sister told me back in Chicago about networking events, and I would go. I had a video business at the time while I was teaching, and I would go, and I remember it felt like just like, it sounds nasty to say low hanging fruit, but like, I felt like I was picking, like, where my mindset was. I had so much trepidation about really building relationships and connecting. And I had this like
Right.
fear of like, if I go to this event and I don't sell something, then I'm a failure. And so I would go and just like with that mindset, and it was really awkward and took years to build to a point where it was like, I'd go to events with the mindset of like, I'm just going to connect with the right person. And I think for me, like, the minute I met you and experienced the Dames, and all the amazing stuff you guys do, there is a difference, and there is truth in a way to people saying this didn't work for me in the past, and I have trauma from going to these awkward events where it's like cattle herding, and I'm just standing in a room full of strangers. And whereas when you go to the Dames, it's just like, I have a friend who has a theater company in Glenview, Illinois, called Oil Lamp Theater, which I used to direct at, and it's an experiential theater where you come in and there's cookies, like baked cookies that smell the whole place, and there's candlelight, and it's such a cool atmosphere, and you immediately know where to stand. I feel like the Dames is the same thing. When you go to a Dames event, you're greeted with a hug, and like hand holding and like, here, I want you to meet this person and that person, you know? And it becomes more
Right.
targeted, and then it becomes more free to, you become more free to really connect and find someone who's like-minded, you know? So I get where people are coming from on that, but it's so funny that you bring up like all this trauma and all this tragedy and all this like emotion, when really what are we talking about? Like at the root of it, like if we scale it down, we're talking about, I have a service, like I'm passionate and hopefully talented and good at what I do. Someone has a problem, like why don't I just talk to them, see what their problem is, really listen, and then support them, right? Like, but that's not what happens. People stand in their way, and they, all this trauma and all these stories that are not true come up and arise for us, right? So like, how do you circumvent that? Like what have you seen to be the best tools for people that are legitimately coming from a background of like shitty networking and being stabbed by business cards, like you always say? Like how do they sit right now in their houses and go, who do I need to meet with? How do I find them? How do I bridge the gap of like not communicating with them and to start communicating with them? Like, how do you do that whole process? Like for real?
Yeah. Well, to start with, it's that you were alluding to it, but I'll just spell it out like directly, that when we approach things with the idea that I need to get something out of this directly for myself right now, and that has to be a client, it brings, I think that's what the negative stigma is on networking as a whole, right? And uh, it's challenging because a lot of times when people are newer stage in their career or newer stage in their business, they don't know what else to do with networking other than using it as a quote unquote marketing and sales tactic of, I'm going here to look for clients and to close clients. And the networking industry, by not being specific as to who the target audience is that they're serving, perpetuates that problem. And so when you look at statistics and you see the percentage of successful female-owned businesses, I don't know the stats around excuse me, male-owned businesses, but the whole reason why I started the Dames was so that I could connect with my peers running six-figure businesses and women who are above our level at seven figures. And the fact that there's only 2% of female-owned businesses at that seven-figure mark, thinking, well, no wonder women don't get there. There's no role models that are accessible to see that it's possible and to meet those people and to learn from them. So that was the whole impetus to create the Dames. But I think it's that initial, coming in selling strong. Whereas what you said was perfect. What if you were really truly looking at anything like, how can I build relationship and rapport with this person? And I mean, what if 90% of the time you were just listening and you're like, oh, you are talking about the fact that you don't have any systems and processes in your business. And so it seems like you're running into overwhelm because you're the only one who can do things because it's all in your head. You know what? I know this woman who's an outsourced COO, and she helps you create these kinds of things. Would you like me to make an introduction for you? Did that have anything to do with you? No. But that's helping somebody else, and that's helping that person solve their own problems. It's not, that person telling you that that's what they're struggling with, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, how is your speaking going? Like you switch the topic so that you can sell yourself. I've seen that happen. And so what's going on in your business with your speaking? Like, how are you on stages? Are you like, just doesn't make sense. Like,
I'm not
okay,
gonna lie,
you're
I might have
serve people.
I might have said that. I might have actually done that to someone on LinkedIn recently. Now that you say that, but it was like, I have to be fair. I was talking to them about them, and they were just giving like one answer, like yes, no,
Yeah.
whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna drop it in a second because it's not going anywhere. So I was like, oh, I see that you're a speaker. Are you having a hard time adapting to the online medium? So like, I do feel like I kind of fell into that. I just have to say.
Well, and that's why it's important to take people from online to offline conversations whenever you can, and why your LinkedIn strategy involves that, getting people on the phone to talk to you, because it's very difficult through text, through words, to try to interpret what someone's dealing with or to have an actual heart-to-heart conversation, so That's one of the things. And I didn't answer your question about the step-by-step, how do we do this?
We'll get there, but that's okay. That's okay. MC, we'll get there. But what you brought up something though too, which is like a big part of it too, I think for a lot of people, as we're talking about this right now, is, and I'm thinking about this for LinkedIn, where I sometimes, I'll tell clients, like, if you write someone an email on LinkedIn that's super positive, like where you generally look at their profile and go, oh my God, I can't believe you built this in the past 5 years, or I can't believe, I read your story and your profile as a single mom with 3 kids, like you built an amazing company. That's incredible, right? If I write an email like that to someone, and it's genuine, I get excited, and then they write back, thanks.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, that's like, they feel like, I know a lot of clients that we talked about that happening, and for them, they'll just crumble. They put so much onus and power in the other person's court, right? So there is that mentality too that I've seen as well, where it's like, and tell me if I'm sure you've seen this, is like, you have the idea of like, I'm gonna fucking sell, and or people are coming from a place of rejection. They're so afraid of rejection, where they it's all on the other person's court. Like if I reach out to them and they don't respond to me, I must be at fault. Like I must be the loser. I'm not gonna lie. I feel this way. I will say I feel this way in the dating department right now. Like where it's like it's all on her shoulders. And it's like, no, like I've worked myself to be like, you know what? I don't care about what I'm not an outdoors person. Like I don't want to do that. Like,
You're like, I'm a Chicagan, dang it.
I'm a Chicagan. I don't drink beer. Like, I don't want to fucking, like, I don't want to hang out with your friend Greg and drink beer at the brewery because I have nothing to talk about. Like, yeah, he might be a nice guy, but like, I'm bored. So yeah, like the problem is with Greg, not me, shit like that. Like, these are the things that go on in my head. I don't even know who Greg is.
So here's, Greg is a great example for any case and scenario, just like Sally Sue is my go-to name for whenever I'm using a name for a scenario. So everything that you're talking about, I think stems back to self-awareness. And you just did an incredible interview, your first talk show with our mutual friend, Lisa Foster, who's a personality expert, especially you guys were talking about the Enneagram. And Lisa's ability to really understand the 9 types as it relates to nearly any situation in life is uncanny. I mean, it's amazing. So she and I are going to work on Enneagram and connection, which I'm really excited about, because I think that that's a huge part, is that people don't know, they don't know who they are, or they're afraid to find out who they are and how they best relate to others. So once you can understand who you are, and you can understand that, maybe you, Ron, when you're paired up with an Enneagram 7 who's like me and who's super excited to connect with people and who has birthday parties whenever she can, except for when she's in quarantine, that involve as many people as possible.
What are you talking about? You had a birthday party. I was sweating buckets at this thing. I had to turn my camera off. I was so nervous. Like you had a birthday party.
There was Zoom though. It's different, but yes, you're right. Anyways, I think it's funny because I'm a 7. And so, when I had my 40th birthday party last year and you were like, you were like, ghost, I'm not even, what? Did you have a birthday? I didn't even know that. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed it. Our birthdays are like a week apart. Give me a break. But anyways, I understand that as a 4, you seek individuation, and you seek going out to lunch with me one-on-one. And that's what's fun for you. So do I take offense to that Ron didn't show up at my party? No, I know Ron's a 4. And I know that my friends who are 5s are nowhere near to be found. I'll have to go find them, and I'll be lucky if I can talk to them on the phone. But it's having that self-awareness and understanding of others that, there's certain types that you're going to approach at networking events or on LinkedIn or in any way, shape, or form that are not going to resonate with you, and vice versa. And so when you're reaching out to them on LinkedIn and they're saying thanks, and then you take that personally, it's like, are they just a direct person? Like, that's something that my husband, who's a very direct person, would respond. Thanks. Like, I took the compliment, I received it, thank you. But he's not going to open up the conversation to be like, so what's your favorite soup? Like, it's just not going to be where he takes it. But if somebody were to say that to me, I would probably, open up this whole long dissertation. And so, yeah, taking things personally is a total sign of lack of self-awareness and the need to really go back inside. And I think that's where we get effed up a lot in business, is that we see something that's not working outside and we immediately look to point outside. Well, you're the one who taught me about this strategy and it didn't work. Interesting. What if you stopped and went back to yourself first and said, was there something in my beliefs, or was there something in my lack of self-awareness that I just didn't realize here? Because anytime we turn the blame on somebody else, it usually means that we're trying to make ourselves a victim, and that's where we fall short. So,
and that is definitely my favorite part.
Some deep thoughts with Meghann Conter.
Well, and that's my favorite part of working with you, is that like whenever I'm upset, I'm like, I know, I'm like, what would Meghann say, And I'm like, where is this a trigger from? Whereas like I sometimes want to call you and be like, Meghann, I'm upset, and have you be like, it's okay, it's okay. But you're like, okay, well, you were triggered right now. How, and like you walk me through this process where ultimately I do feel better afterwards. But that is true, and to not take
because I don't let you run away from the actual feelings. Haha.
I know, because you're a healthy 7.
Yes, keep going. Sorry.
No, you keep going. You want to do voices. You want to do a little voice now?
Oh, yes, but you were saying something very important, so you need to say what you are going to say.
I know, but
that was like an Italian mixed with a Russian that had a really high-pitched voice.
And a baby with Marlon Brando.
Yes.
Oh, mama, now. You make borscht salad very good.
Indeed.
Have you ever wondered about that? I'm just kidding.
What were you saying?
Yeah. I don't even remember, Meghann. Being accountable, finding
connection. We're back to connection. Connection. There's the key, right? It's having an understanding of yourself and having an understanding of the other person. And if they're showing up healthy, if they're not, this is totally like taking us off on a tangent. But that's the other thing that I see that goes wrong frequently with people who are making connections is that they expect, you said, you walk into a networking event and you immediately are going to have 10 new leads or 10 new relationships or 10 new best friends. No, who does that, right? We don't walk in, most of us don't swipe left on a dating app and then get married the next day. So but somehow we think that that's what's supposed to happen in business. And that's not the truth. We have to kiss a bunch of frogs before we meet our princes. And then we have to court those princes and develop good relationships and strong rapport in relationships.
But can you define good? Like, can you define good relationship? Like, what is, like, again, what are the ingredients? This is where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. Like,
let's get to the ingredients. So there is a lot of value in meeting people and seeing if you resonate with them and connecting with those people. There's a ton of value in that. And there are a lot of networks out there who, like a leads group, let's say, or just a lot of networks where you're encouraged to meet other people who you share common interests with, who you resonate with. And that is super important because you're not going to build long-term relationships if you're like oil and water together. It's just not going to happen. But what I think we often miss in the pre-work before that is not a lot of us have a lot of time to go to 700 networking events a month to try to find the people that we resonate with. Not to mention when you go to networking events, you're lucky if you can really connect with like 3 or 4 people and maybe one of those people you resonate with. So the way that I learned trial by error in that example I gave earlier of like networking so much and then getting to a point of like, this isn't working, what am I doing wrong? Was I completely stopped networking for a few, I would say it was about 18 months. And I was in 3 to 5 Club, which is a great mastermind here, and was really working hard on the content that we were learning, which a lot of it was know thyself type content, really understanding who you are, what your vision is, your values, your mission, where you're headed, really getting that deep understanding. So I was going through a lot of that as I was transforming and up leveling my business. And I'm very grateful for that time, because I hit the pause button and I really got intentional and figured out who I was and what my business was and where we were headed. And then it was my ability to get clarity on who I needed to connect with was much more present. So in the work that I did through that organization and the learning I did, that's really where I developed the way that the names was built and set the building blocks for it, which is, yes, it's great to connect with people because you resonate with them, but what would it look like if we were strategic first and then we were resonant beings? So here's what I mean by that. One of the principal reasons I created the Dames was because there were very, very few successful 6 and 7 figure women out networking when I was leading all of these events. And I knew that that was where my market was. That was also where my peers were. And that I didn't want to go out and network with brand new business owners or, multi-level marketing business people, or that was not going to help me get to where I was headed with my big picture vision. And so when I started the Dames, I knew that I needed to be able to create something that would draw those women out, because they'd been hiding for a while. No wonder they'd been hiding. They'd been business cards stabbed and their brains had been sucked to death by leeches, because they would go to an event and they were the smartest person in the room. Well, there's a point at which you realize, I'm the smartest person in the room. How am I going to grow? So that's what the Dames was. It's like, okay, we are going to have an environment that is specifically catered to the needs, wants, and desires of women who are running successful 6 and 7 figure businesses and that are growing and scaling and need the support of others who are facing similar challenges and similar celebrations to grow alongside. And from that point, it's like, okay, yes, I can go to these events and I can see with whom I resonate. But if I'm building relationships as a business to business service provider with a lot of, let's say, salon owners or, chiropractors, or a lot of B2C providers, just as an example, it's not the most strategic way to network, because the people I'm going to get the best leads from and that I'm going to be able to serve the best and that I'm going to be able to give the most leads to are also business to business service providers. We work with the same kinds of clients. So it's almost flipping the way that we approach network a little bit to say, let's be strategic first and know who it is that we need to connect with. And let's ask for those connections, both from our centers of influence, getting us connected to those people directly. And when we walk into a networking event itself, asking the person who's running that event, hey, who are the business to business service providers here, like the COOs, the CIOs, the CTOs, the CMOs that I should meet? And then going directly to those people. Then you ask them about themselves, you learn about them, and you start to begin to really see, you vet that person and you use that time to connect intuitively with yourself to say, is this someone that I have rapport with, that I can build a relationship with? And then you start down that road. But it's using that strategy first, and then the tactics or the connection second as the way of approaching things.
That's huge. And I love that. And again, like I'm telling you, like I saw the difference of where I would go and, I would go to I feel bad saying the lowest hanging fruit, but I would go to events and I would just grab one person at a time or something. And then when I'd finish a project, I had to start my business over again. It felt like, whereas the differences of when I met you and similar connectors where I can say, oh, I have a new product. Can you connect me with 2 people that would need this, that are looking for this kind of thing? And you go, yeah, within an hour, you'll send me an email. And so I think that's such a game changer. So again, it's you nailed it, where it's just, again, it seems like the thread through all of this is finding people that you have similar challenges with, similar value systems with, and then how do you all serve each other in that realm? What do you feel like, that all being said, like, I think, or what do you think are the most effective resources that we have at our disposals right now? And obviously we're in quarantine right now, we're 4 weeks in, but you know, this is, I mean, if you're watching this later in life, like in a few years, like I have a feeling that a lot of the systems that we're putting into place now are going to be there in a few years. So what do you feel like are the most effective resources at our disposal right now to understand and learn someone else's challenges, see if you can solve them or if they're just similar to yours, and how to leverage relationships in this new medium?
So I don't think that there is much that has needed to change in terms of building relationships and building rapport. It's still the same as it was 2 months ago and will be going forward. It's the work and the time that we put into the strategy and into building quality relationships that counts. So if you haven't yet gotten clear as an entrepreneur on who your target audience is, it will be very difficult for you to get clear on who the power partners are that are going to be the greatest referral partners for you. So that's step number one, is taking the time right now to get clear on who those target audience members are, and then using one of three methods to figure out who your power partners are, which is number one, who has the same target audience as you, but a non-competing service or product to yours. Number two, who has the same service or product as you, but a different target audience. Or number three, who else comes in contact with the decision maker of the customer you are trying to reach. And those are three ways to start identifying who your power partners are. And then your job becomes figuring out ways to connect with your power partners, which then allows you to build relationships with those power partners. I don't know what accent this is, but it's really interesting.
It's like a kaleidoscope. So, it's just evolving.
Yes, yes, indeed. And then it's about building rapport with those people, because it's not like you go out on one date and then you have a complete understanding of who that person is. And I always tell people, ask yourself, is your service or product something that is very easily explained in 30 seconds? If not, then your relationship building timeline is going to be a little bit longer. So for instance, with my marketing consulting business, it is not like, hey, I'm a marketing consultant and coach, and people know what the hell that means, because marketing is a very broad field and the way that I do things is very different. So I specifically, when I'm meeting new people, the first meeting that I have is a 30-minute meeting where I'm asking them about their business and where they've been and where they're headed and what their current challenges are, and if they've had experience in building power partnerships before. I'm using that first meeting as a way to decide, is it worth moving forward? Could this be a mutually beneficial relationship? The second meeting, my agenda is always to learn and understand their vision and where they're headed and who their target audience is. And the third meeting, I'm learning about their process and what's specific to their process. Because the better that I understand them, the better referral partner I'm going to be for them. And that's what a true power partnership is. When I can meet a potential client for you, Ron, and I know the pain points that I'm looking for, and then I can say, oh my gosh, Ron has this 3-phased approach to helping you develop yourself as a speaker that has an authentic voice and an authentic message and communicates in the best way for that person and their personality. And I can go into depth of like what that looks like. I'm bringing you somebody who's like, I don't know, 70-80% sold already. All you have to do is tell them, you know, what the price is and where to sign on the dotted line. But that's the key to building a long-lasting relationship, is that you actually give a shit about the person you're learning about. And you have the systems in place to be able to recall who someone is when you're sitting in front of a potential client for them. And you can pull up your CRM and say, you know who you need to know? Ron Ben Joseph. And so it's all of these things. And I think that it would be really cool, if it's okay with you, if we included my power partner step-by-step guide with this, so that people can go back and do the as it relates to all the steps that are in here in between, because there's so many things that go into this. But I love how we're talking about these things
Yeah.
live in the.
Oh my God, yes, 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 please. And so actually that's a perfect segue. I want to ask you a final question. It's kind of a big question. So let's say, so you use me as an example, but let's say like my co-parent, she's a brilliant web designer. Like I'm a huge fan of her work. She did my website, and many other people's websites. I've always been curious. This is my own journey. She has a job. She's taking care of. She doesn't care. But I've always been, for me, I'm like, I never knew how to effectively communicate website, like website creation to someone. Pretend that I'm a web designer and I've been doing really well the past few years on referrals, and now this thing happens. I'm not going to in-person events. Can you walk me through, as kind of when we do outlines, this is the resolution part. So instead of conclusion, can you walk me through the blueprint of how you would tell me to either connect with a connector or start building relationships through the resource that we have? So how would you walk someone who's a web designer, or I mean, it could be any other, any other kind of creative service, but how would you walk them through this process where they go, oh my God, I don't know anyone right now. It feels like, I mean, I have clients, but like, I don't know how to get new clients. Where do I start? What do I say? Who do I connect to? Walk me through that whole process.
Sure. I wish I could do it in an accent the whole time so that people could be just entertained and really like absorbed into what I'm going to say, but I don't think I can do it.
I know.
So,
Can we take a moment where it's just like, man, Lisa Foster.
Lisa is amazing. I just can't get enough of her.
Right? Because she does that. She walks us through the journey in characters and stuff. But
she does, yes.
But
She's
you're really
brilliant
good.
at it.
We did a sketch recently where you did a character.
Oh, I'm good at characters. It's just when I have to like speak of something that I don't know, I mean, speak of something that I don't have memorized, that it's a little bit more difficult. So, anywho,
You're
so if
welcome.
you're, here's what I see a vast majority of the time is that when you're not willing to really declare who your niche is and who your target audience is, it's a stopgap. And so a lot of times when and maybe it's just because we're talking about web designers, web designers have a hard time saying that they have a target audience. And there are a lot of providers that do. And I can tell you that having been in marketing for the last, 17 years, that when clients actually dive into and acknowledge who they are here to serve, their business explodes because they know what it is that they do best and how they do it. So that's, number one thing is really, you got to understand who it is that you're here to serve. And then that way you can understand who your power partners are. So once that web designer gets clear, for instance, that marketing consultants and branding consultants, branding strategists and marketing strategists, sometimes business coaches, yes, business coaches tend to be great referral partners for them because they come in contact with your client before you do. And really understanding then, even let's say that you as a web designer know that your best clients are therapists. Okay, well, who else works with therapists? Who else has therapists as their target audience and target niche? Well, maybe some speaking coaches love working with therapists. Maybe some other service providers love working with that audience. So you can also go to those people as power partners to get you connected with your target client. But where people often get stuck is, okay, we'll use this stuck in quarantine. How do I reach out and get connected to those potential power partners? So number one, LinkedIn, right? So as well as I do that the more strategic you are in looking for people on LinkedIn, the more successful you're going to be. Just going and starting to connect with any Tom, Dick, or Harry. Boy, I just brought myself back to the past with that one. Oh, golly gee, that trying to connect with just anyone is not going to be helpful. It's the same concept as I'm going to work with anyone who has a pulse. Good luck. And I hope you have a marketing budget the size of Starbucks because it's not going to work. So there's one. You look on LinkedIn, you start looking for the kinds of people, the power partners that you're looking for. And if you know their industries or if you know their areas of focus, it's going to be a lot easier to use the search functions to find them. And another one is to go straight for your centers of influence. And if your centers of influence are people that you have not been in touch with, please don't be an asshole and reach out and just say, hey, Ron, I haven't talked to you in like 6 years. Who do you know that's a, marketing or branding strategist or blah, blah, blah. And would you connect me? Don't do that. But reach out to them, connect with them, see how they're doing, re-engage. And then after you've had some conversation with them, then it's appropriate for you to say, hey, I am getting super clear on some people that I need to know. And I'm wondering if you'd be willing to connect me to the branding strategists, marketing strategists, blah, 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 that you know in your network. And oh, by the way, here's an introduction paragraph that you can use to make introducing me to them very easy. Because if I put that onus on that center of influence, that's another dick move. You got my spicy pickle out, Ron. You just did it because I'm using the don't be a dick.
Don't be. Can I add another? Don't be a dick. Don't write
Yes.
people emails on LinkedIn just out of the gate selling yourself. Like where it's like, hey, I was wondering if you could take a look at this video that I made. This 20 minutes, and don't.
You know what? It didn't work 12 years ago or 10 years ago when Facebook came out and people were starting to use it, and people were saying, I have a groundbreaking opportunity for you and you could get in on the ground floor with me. It didn't work then on Facebook. It doesn't work on Instagram. It doesn't work on LinkedIn. Just get rid of that. Thank you, Ron. Absolutely. And thirdly, if you're part of the dames, if you're part of our target audience and you want to think about applying to be part of our network, we cut through a lot of that for you, and we do strategic matchmaking. So we learn about our members and their target audience, their end clients, the same thing, their power partners and their goals. And then we make strategic connections for you to the other women who are part of our network and people outside of our network that could be the resource that you need to build rapport with and then grow those relationships to lead to more business. So there are not many other organizations out there that do that, but generally speaking, you even said it the other day, if you're part of a network and you get that clarity and you reach out to the person who is organizing or who is in charge of that network, I guarantee you that if you ask them, hey, I need to know 3 or 4 marketing and branding strategists that have been in business for a while and that are, successful, could you connect me? The person who runs that network knows who those people are. So chances are you can reach out to the person who runs your network and ask them, and they'd be happy to. What's difficult is when those of us who run and lead networks don't know what you're looking for, and you come in saying, oh, I need something, I just don't know what it is. It's like, okay, well, let's get clear on what that is so that I can actually help you. Because if we don't have clarity, we don't have squat. So
that's huge, Megan. Like seriously, thank you so much for your time, because that was super valuable. Like just walking us through that, and it's astounding how it's relatively simple what you're saying, but again, like when I think about going back to the beginning of the conversation, how many barriers come up for people when it comes to reaching out to a connector. And it's almost like some high school shit where you're like, well, this person's popular, like I don't want to bug them, I'm not popular enough. And it's like, well, no, I don't think I think what I've learned from you, especially over the past 2 years, is that connectors love connecting and or strategizing or whatever, like you guys love this shit, you live off of it. So I tell people every week now, I'm like, go, if your group is, if you have a certain kind of demographic that you want to work with, and there's a meetup for that, even just to get your name out there, to build connections, to build relationships, to start serving people in this moment, connect with the host of the networking group, ask them if they have an opportunity for you to come and speak in, or speak at one of their online virtual events, or create opportunities based on partnering with people with similar challenges and that you are a solution for it, and having that mindset where it's partnering. I mean, you've been talking about it for years, and like I've just recently this year started doing collaborations where we're not selling anything to each other, but we are, hey, let's put on a show. Let's do this creative thing together. Let's put this out there for our mutual demographics and shit. So it's huge.
Or let's just sit down and see who we have in our networks that we need to connect each other with. Like collaboration can be as simple as that. It doesn't have to be that we're creating new workshops and new scenarios with every person that we meet, because that can be daunting. And that's what people sometimes think, oh, collaboration is going to be like this big project that I have to work on. No, collaboration is when you and I sit down and we say, hey, Ron, who have you been working with lately that you've really loved working with? And you tell me 3 or 4 different kinds of people. And I'm like, sweet, let me introduce you to 3 or 4 other people who do the same thing. And that way you can talk to them and you can build rapport and relationship. And I think that's the key, is like, you understand that rapport and relationship now is what is paramount. And there was one other thing I forgot to say, that Facebook groups is another way to meet people who have common interests, or who have, especially those that are, surrounding a specific area of expertise, or those that are really active. But Facebook groups can be another place to find people.
I'm so glad you brought up Facebook. Yeah, like I'm blown away. I recently signed up, 2 clients from Facebook, not in a gross way, but just offering a solution. But because I was at an event, like a conference, that they moved to Facebook, and I thought it was I was watching how people were interacting. I really liked what they had to say. I would comment and reply to what they were saying. Then I would go on their profile and see that they're like really lovely people. And I love that word, lovely. Like these are like Kyle Matthews level people. You know what I mean? Like that is the loveliest man I know, Kyle Matthews, who introduced us.
Oh my gosh. Completely.
And he's a collaborator. Like he is the epitome of collaborator.
He is.
But these people were like on that level of like kind and like sweet and sincere. You could see their whole profile. You could see their family. And for me, it gave much more of like a multifaceted, dimensional view of the kind of person that is. And I'm very specific with who I work with. And so it's like, oh, I want to fucking work with them for sure, Right. And then I reach out, and same kind of process is like just express to them how much excitement I felt looking at their profile and what they're up to and their businesses and their websites and stuff. So I love this. You've done a great job of articulating like the whole process of working through those fears, and then how to come up with a real clear system of connecting and building relationships, building collaborations. Like Meghann, you're just, in Hebrew we say neshama. You're just a soul. You're a good soul. You're good. Like you're doing really good work, Meghann. Like you do literally impact people in amazing ways. So I fucking adore you. Virtual hug.
I adore you, and I can't wait till it's an actual hug. Oh man, the day can't come fast enough. But yes, thank you, Ron. This has been amazing.
Every day we're getting closer to that day. So, right?
We are. That's right. It's like for me, every day in the springtime, we're getting that much closer to summer. So every day I'm like a new flower that's coming out to be like, hello, do we have permanent sun yet? Oh, we're so close. Oh, here's a little bit of hail. Oh, okay. But it's good. We get to that point eventually where it can be a fully bloomed flower.
Meghann, I love that. On that note, that's a reminder that you still haven't done the French accent to an extent. We did it. We touched on it. We just dabbled.
Oh no, that is not good. Oh, what would you like me to say, my love?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So we did a sketch recently about collaboration soup.
Yes, we did.
And I just wanted you to say collaboration because I love how you say it.
Oh, the collaboration. Yes, when we get together and we figure out how to make collaboration soup together, it is like stone soup. If you do not know what stone soup is, go look it up, because stone soup is amazing community-created soup where everyone brings their favorite ingredients and they infuse their love into the soup. And it is the most delicious pot of soup that everyone can eat and everyone has contributed to. And so therefore there is so much love that is just infused into that soup. It's beautiful.
Magnifique.
Magnifique. C'est trop magnifique. Exactement.
All right, Meghann, you are a doll. My favorite part of when you do the French accent is how your eyes they'll expand this way. Yeah.
Oh, they get lengthened, do they?
Oui,
Beautiful.
ouais,
Oui, oui.
oui,
Ouais,
oui, ouais.
exactement. Ouais.
Okay, good. Meghann, listen, I will be Israeli now and say fuck you very much. I mean, say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, to me, every time an Israeli talks, it's like it's an attack. So fuck you very much. Did you just well? I said thank you. Anyway, Meghann, I adore you. Thank you so much for your time. We will post that the steps to connection. Is that what's it called?
Yep. Power Partner Step by Step. Yes.
Power Partner Step by Step, and we'll post a link to the Dame's website if people are of that, like people are qualifier, and if people qualify, pardon my French, myself here, it's my second language.
Bah oui. Magnifique.
And if not, just, I would say, just keep an eye out for Meghann and all the amazing things she's doing. She's an amazing resource for people at various stages in their business, right? Just like, don't bug her, but like, you are an amazing resource. You are out and about in a lot of communities. You are on a lot of podcasts. So thank you for your time today. I adore you. Virtual hug. And we'll see you in the next episode.
À la prochaine.
J'arrête pas dire.